Justice Warriors. What should I start with? Thanks for being here. Please hit that like button if you'd be so kind. I hope the lighting's okay. It seems to change every minute. I know you guys say it's all right. Don't worry about it. Please share, subscribe, ring your notification bell if you please. Let's just get started. So I think I'm on. Maybe I'm not. No, I am. I just don't have anybody here with me. I'm all alone. I'm so sad. Um, I actually scheduled this, so I did it differently on my cell phone, and I think it's working, but we'll see. And I hope there's not that annoying clicking sound. If anyone's here and you want to say hello in the chat, then I think that I'll know that you can hear me, but also to know that we don't have that clicking sound. Maybe I will go ahead and put in my earbuds just to be on the safe side, because when I was reviewing the tape yesterday, the live. Oh, hi, Annie Ruler. How awesome to have you here. Thanks for being here. So when I was reviewing the live yesterday on my cell phone, I could hear that clicking, but if I was watching it on my laptop, I didn't hear the clicking. Do you hear that stupid clicking? I have my AirPods in just in case. And let's get right into it. Everything I say is simply my opinion, simply for the sake of conversation, always hoping to open up a discussion and to learn and to be educational. My videos are all to date made specifically for YouTube, and it's an entertainment platform that seems to be a little hypocritical. No clicking. That's awesome. Okay, well, I have my earbuds in. I'm just going to leave them. Let me know if there's any problems. I know you will. Oh, it's just me and you, girlfriend. Like, do you have some tea or coffee? I've got my squirrel yoga mug full of some really good Java, and I'm excited to have a conversation about Maui. I also want to touch on my girl, Kylie Rodney, our girl, Kylie Rodney. Ice water, that's a very, very good one. Good choice. And I do want to talk about the Idaho 4. I mentioned yesterday that, I'm not very interested in all the bickering back and forth. He's guilty, you're an idiot if you can't see it. He's not guilty, obviously, there's a conspiracy. Like, I don't see a point in the bickering other than, trying to get ratings and clicks and likes and, be insulting to other people. Like, I'm not into any of that, you guys. I'm really not. Of course, I'd like to have the views and the likes and the subscribers so that I exist, simply so that I exist. I love the size of my channel. It's absolutely ginormous compared to where I ever in my wildest dreams thought it could be. And it's absolutely teeny tiny on the grand scale of YouTube. And I love that because it gives us that kind of, I won't say privacy because it's a public forum, obviously, but it makes it feel more personal to me. Um, so, you guys know I'm extremely interested in justice, literally justice for all. I feel like I can only kind of speak within the scope of the country that I live in. Um, but it is a global problem, obviously. And, I had a bumper sticker when I was a freshman in college. It said, "Think globally, act locally." And I love that. I love it, love it, love it. It's so true. There was another one that I had on the other side of my bumper that said, this was my first car. It said, "Peace in space, no Star Wars." And I don't think I really knew what that meant. But looking at the direct energy weapons that are definitely a real thing, I'm thinking that's part of what that meant, right? Um, so let's start with Maui because, um, I always just like to speak from my heart because that's where I feel like I'm going to be the most productive. I was extremely disappointed this morning when I woke up and watched some Starkey farmstead, and I don't want to be throwing shade at her. She's doing great. She's doing her thing. She asked people like me to unsub, so I don't know that I really want to unsub. I mean, that's just where she's coming from right now. And I knew this was going to happen. I knew that she or any of us would be in great danger if we said, "Hey, I'm going to Maui." And obviously, they're going to be able to find us there. It's a relatively small island. I mean, it's not teeny tiny, but you're in a confined space basically. You're like a trapped freaking rat. And everybody that's there knows that. They've known that for decades, okay? Decades and decades and decades. It's nothing new. And people that are native to the land have been around the block once or twice. Give me a freaking break. This situation is simply history repeating itself. It's nothing new. But you do not speak out against these powers that be that have the power to do whatever they want. And they want that land. They've wanted that land since I looked it up. Uh, I've been looking up a lot of the history, and it's nice to understand what people are talking about. I'm not that fluent with it, so you guys can help me out. Annie Ruler, you got to think about Pearl Harbor. That was December 7th, 1941. So when I went and visited Oahu, I went to the Pearl Harbor, what do you call it, like an exhibit or a memorial, and it's huge. It's absolutely huge. We had thousands of American soldiers die at the hands of the Japanese government, I believe, if I'm accurate. I'm not a history buff, but I was there. That was 30 years ago, almost. It was like, oh, was it 87? I think it was fall of 87 was the last time I was there. 97. What's a decade, right? So the first time I was there was about the summer of 89. And then the second time I was there was about 8 years later, fall of 97. So the first time, I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. Pixie Knickers, hello, hello, good morning. What are you painting? I'm so curious. I know you're likely painting canvases, not like the walls of your house, but that's awesome. So yeah, getting into the history of the Maui situation. Do you guys know? I did not know this until yesterday. There was a deadline on August 7th. This was water applications for water rights that people of Lahaina have been fighting over for as long as time. You've heard people talking about how this goes back to the plantation days, and we've got over 100 years of the mismanagement of water. We've got a long history of fighting over the land, fighting over the water. So about a year ago, I think it was June of 2022, June or July, I think it was June, the locals won a basically where they could have the superior water rights. They could have first choice, but they had to get their applications in by August 7th of 2023. So if they got their applications in by August 7th of 2023, we all know what happened the very next day, right? And then the day after, August 8th, on August 9th, the governor initiated proclamation to suspend the freaking water code, you guys. Like, it couldn't be more obvious. It's so easy to miss the obvious. And this is not a freaking conspiracy theory. Okay? Don't want to get too angry. I'm just really passionate about what's going on here because people have died, children have died. There's a lot of secrecy. Why all the effing secrecy? If everything is above boards, there'd be no freaking secrecy, okay? So, um, the huge effort was made by corporate entities, huge efforts made ongoing for them to have the superior water rights, not for the local native folks of Lahaina. And I did look up that island that allegedly 180 corpses washed up on off Maui. The name of that island is Lani, or Lanai. So remember what I said about having visited Hawaii, and they use, I believe they use half of our alphabet, and they use a lot of the letters repeatedly. So when I was confusing Lahaina with, how would you say it? Lanaya? Something like that. It wasn't that far off. There's a lot of that, and it gets really confusing. And there's so much that's named after that king Kamehameha, which, as you guys probably know, if you've been following the whole thing with Maui, he's highly revered for being able to make peace, um, peace among the islands, peace with the rest of the world. So, in my opinion, it seemed like everything was named after him. What you guys saying? Theories are only theories until they are the truth. There you go. Exactly. And yeah, if more than one person is planning something, then that's the C word. Or for so that we don't hit that buzzword, it's nice, I think, to say coordinated effort, orchestrated, choreographed. Um, so these fires, I've said it so many times, I can't believe it, because obviously it's huge if there was anything intentional. But even if it was all just stupid neglect and unintentional, it's still criminal. We had many of the leaders of public health and safety off island. Coincidence? So many coincidences. So I want to ask, and I want to be kind about it, because I have a lot of respect for Starkey farmland. I want to ask, if it's not a problem, why the secrecy about, there was a TikToker that found the school buses and he videotaped it, and his TikTok, I think it was TikTok, got taken down. But Hustle Biatch has that clip in his last video. And if there's no darkness happening, why are they hiding the school buses? Why would that guy be in danger for showing the buses locked behind a fence? I believe it was on a military base. Um, Nobody should be in danger for speaking the truth or for having whacked out conspiracy theories. Nobody should be in danger for that. But if you're going to be on an island and you're going to be a trapped rat, you better be careful what you say. Just saying. I mean, we all have to be careful what we say anyway, for many, many reasons. There's freedom of speech, but you have to be reasonable, folks, right? I don't need to tell my people that. You guys are on it. The blue Doomslayer and blue Anti-Fury, can I ask a question? You may, but your name of your handle concerns me. And nobody comes in here and says, "Can I ask a question?" So that concerns me too. So Pixie Knickers says, "Thank you, Annie. It is fun. I love painting, crafting, drawing, writing poetry, etc. It really helps my mental health. Where do energy weapons get set off from?" Good question, Miss Ruler. Maybe possibly a military base. The military bases are, there's a huge army base in Honolulu, and there's active military, I believe, all over the islands. I mean, those islands are key for global peace strategies, and you do have to fight for peace. I'm all for that. Mark Molina, where is the video of the school bus? Is it on Rumble? You know, I I know that it was taken down, and I want to say it was on TikTok. It could have been YouTube, but I will put in the description the most recent Hustle Biatch, and he's got a snip of it in there. So Guam and Diego Garcia and you have ships, right? Jaded Warehouse, what's good? Yes, what's good? Um, so yeah, so Starkey Farmstead also put it in her video this morning and said, she was very frustrated with people and saying, people stop with the conspiracy theories, which I agree. Stop with the conspiracy theories. Completely don't stop with asking good, intelligent questions and being concerned because things were done improperly. And to me, it looks very intentional. If they are that incompetent and that stupid, they still are responsible. It is their job. They knew or should have known. They let those fires burn and burn and burn and burn and burn down the entire freaking town. And a lot of people died. And a lot of people are still missing. And some of those people who perished in the flames were children. Some of the people that are still missing are children. If even one child was kidnapped in the chaos, which is more than entirely possible, those things happen. Sick freaks are sick freaks and they are opportunists. So things like that happen and it's god awful. And I hope not one got put into a situation like that. I hope and pray. I hope that the majority of the people will be found. I hate to say it, but dead or alive. I hope that they will be found. I hope that the families have answers. There needs to be an inquiry into what started the fire and what prevented the cessation of the fires. There needs to be an inquiry into why the police were barricading off the exits and not reevaluating their orders when it was obvious that people were getting burned alive. I shouldn't have to say this stuff. And that island that said people, eyewitnesses, locals say that they saw all these corpses wash up. That's to be expected. I Googled it and freaking Google is all about the fake news. They were just like, no, no, the authorities say that that didn't happen. That's a huge conspiracy theory. And, our sources are the Maui PD and the government and military and probably regular mainstream media. I don't know. There were four sources, and I'm pretty sure I got the first three right. But does anyone trust that police chief? I'm going to hit the nail on the head. He is 100% untrustworthy. And then did you guys hear the governor and Oprah stating that the people of Lahaina, the victims, needed an apology from the world? Did you hear that? Need an apology from the world for all the irresponsible global warming. Now, I do actually believe in global warming, but I also believe that a lot of these epic fires and floods are not necessarily from that. I'll just leave it there. I don't want to get into a big debate over it. How could he execute his orders? OMG. Right. So this is what he said. I've looked more into it. When questioned about it, he denied it. He said they weren't blocked, they weren't barricaded. You're, fake news. And then when he was presented with evidence like photographs and videotapes and personal accounts, he said, "Oh, well, that was for the public safety." Okay, how was that for public safety? Because there were downed power lines. But wait, these power lines had been de-energized for hours. Hours, you guys. I think it was 2 in the morning or 6 in the morning when they de-energized the power lines. They didn't re-energize them. They were de-energized from the wee hours of the morning all day long. So the power lines may have started that first blast. If you guys have seen that big white explosion behind the trees, that, in my opinion, could be a tree falling on a power line, but it could also not be a tree falling on a power line. That's the fire that the fire department said that they had contained and they were done. And then more fires, not just one fire, of course, multiple fires continued through the morning, throughout the day. You know, you guys are probably listening and watching a lot of um, personal accounts of how people found out about it, how people escaped. I saw one that I will put in the comments that was so touching. The younger brother was named Milo, and he was just adorable. And then the older brother, I wrote his name down. I think I have it right here. Um, but it might be on a different piece of paper. Let's see, what was Milo's brother's name? Anyway, the older brother and him have been interviewed a lot on a lot of the mainstream media sites and on YouTube sites. And they were with their mother and they escaped the fire barely. They were three of the survivors who eventually jumped into the water, and that's what saved them barely. And then they didn't know where their father was. Their father worked downtown and they were scared to death that their father was getting burned alive. But he had the day off because of the power being shut down in all of Lahaina. The power was shut down for the entire day. So the police obviously effing knew that. So for them to say, "Oh, well, it's a downed power line, so, you know, it's an emergency, we have to keep everybody away." They know that there's a fire emergency, and they know that the downed power line is de-energized. Of course, an active power line is going to be deadly. They know it's been de-energized all effing day, okay? So these are just blatant lies, and I'm gonna go back to what I said. They're not lies, and they think that what they're saying is true, that those power lines are a health hazard and a public safety factor, then they're ignorant and they should not be in these positions where they're getting paid. That police chief is getting paid close to $250,000 a year, and he's had nothing but complaints of a hostile work environment and low morale since he got there. He got there almost 2 years ago, December 15th, 2021. So you guys know that he came from Vegas and that he was in charge of that mass shooting at the country music festival. And that whole situation was handled poorly. And Chief Peltier, if I'm saying his name right, Pelletier, I think it's John Pelletier, he was the captain of the Las Vegas Police Department, and he was in charge of that catastrophic event. So why does he have such bad luck that he comes from that catastrophic event in Vegas a few years ago? And then shortly after he's hired here, within 2 years, they have the biggest catastrophe ever of the Hawaiian Islands since Pearl Harbor. Okay. Pearl Harbor was huge. You guys know all about Pearl Harbor, I'm sure. I mean, it's such a disaster. It's just heartbreaking. Um, this is the biggest catastrophe since Pearl Harbor for the Hawaiian Islands. I've looked up all the freaking catastrophes nationwide because I've been saying things like this is the largest mass casualty fire since somewhere in the 1930s. So if you count 9/11, obviously that's a mass casualty event, that there were a lot of fires, but fire is not what started that. The airplanes crashing into the towers, obviously. So we the nightclub in Rhode Island with the pyrotechnics that burned the place down and about 100 people died and hundreds more were injured. One of the factors of this whole Maui situation that makes me so suspicious is we don't hear anything about any injuries. Zero. The only injuries I've heard about are the ones I heard on the street from my friend here in Ohio about the person that was there that was in her 20s that died a few days after she got back to visit her family that had a lot of smoke inhalation. So there are many people, I'm sure, that were burned that survived. And then we've got all of the homeless people, you guys. This area was a mecca for homeless encampments, an absolute mecca. It was like a utopia. People had been moving there for years to be homeless in Hawaii rather than homeless in Portland, Oregon, or Seattle, San Francisco, not just the West Coast, but anywhere in the country. It's just that these are all cities on the West Coast, each one of them that I've lived in, and I know they had homeless problems back then, and they have homeless problems literally hundreds of times worse now. So, a lot of homeless people living off of the land outside of Lahaina. Have we heard one story from these people? I know I've heard one. I'm pretty sure, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that beautiful old man who goes by the name Fish that weaves hats for a living and sells them uh, next to what is it called? Like Burger in Paradise or something like that. He was the first person that I saw interviewed on Hawaii Real Estate's channel. Um, I think he's homeless. I could be incorrect. Like I said, forgive me if I'm wrong. But he definitely, kind of lives off grid, it seems. He's very humble and low key and extremely wise, well educated, very kind, very smart, very religious. And I think that we can trust Fish 100%, 100%. He was the first person that I heard report not only about the blockages, the barricades, but he asked the police officer. He went up to the police officer and said, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" And when the police officer told him, "I have orders," Fish literally respected that and thought he must know something I don't know. That's his own account. I've listened to it more than once. If you don't know who I'm talking about, again, I will put that link in my description too, because I think this stuff is very important. I don't think we're going off the deep end to ask questions. And obviously, these people wouldn't be quitting. The director of the housing authority, the director of um, safety management, they would not be walking away from their high paying jobs just for the heck of it. They know things aren't right and they can't say it. And, people on the island know that they can't speak freely. People making YouTube videos know that they can't speak freely. Things are going on that are not decent. Very indecent things have happened, and very indecent things continue to happen. Um, I'm from North Korea. Hello there. In Antarctica. Oh my goodness, that is wild. In a car from Ohio. I'm a seat from Arabia. Okay. Smart city. Hey Deb. At a McDonald's, I learned English from barbecue bacon burger. Yum! I would believe anything a barbecued bacon burger told me. So welcome, you guys. That's nice to see new folks. So I did make an announcement that I was doing this live, and so more people would see that. Trolling, is that what you're doing, Deb? There's nothing wrong with trolling, in my opinion, if you're not acting like a troll. I mean, that's how you find stuff is by trolling. Um, so I do have a zero troll policy for people who get nasty, just not having it. So please mind your P's and Q's. I respect other people's opinions. I respect people who think I'm wrong. Um, I hope that I'm wrong about much of the things that I'm suspicious about because it's a really gruesome reality to think that anybody would hurt another person intentionally. But we are all grown-ups and we all know that other people hurt other people intentionally. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So I wanna read a couple of things. I don't wanna do a whole lot of reading. I did that a few days ago. But on this first 5 pages of the very first proclamation from July 17th, 2023, the first 5 pages when you download it is actually not really the proclamation, it's sort of a summary of the proclamation in flowcharts. So it kind of defines some things. And one of the things, this is on page 2, so it's pretty much right at the top, is what is a housing emergency in Hawaii? Mind you, this was almost 3 weeks before the fire event, and it states verbatim, "Hawaii has the most expensive housing prices in the United States because we have failed to sufficiently build homes for our residents. Our current housing shortage has led to a crisis of increasing homelessness." And it goes on, okay? So there are a lot of local people have moved off island because they can't afford to stay there. And there's a lot that have been displaced from their family homes and they live in the encampments. Um, so it makes me curious. We have failed to sufficiently build homes for our residents. We live in an economy that is a capitalist economy. We're autonomous. We are responsible for ourselves. So, right here, the government is taking responsibility for housing the people. Interesting. And they're admitting that they've failed. We have failed to sufficiently build homes for our residents. This is a crisis that's been building since the state became our 50th state, which was 1959. It started before then. It started way before Hawaii became a state in 1959. And that was probably part of what led Hawaii to agree to becoming the 50th state was thinking that the American government would help with situations like that. Um, so the crisis of increasing homelessness is nothing new. It's absolutely nothing new. But I just wonder how many of the homeless perished in the fire will not be recorded because the only people that might put them on that list of missing persons are also lost in the fire, you guys. And for parents that aren't reporting their children missing, those parents probably perished in the fire too. So the children may have perished in the fire and they may not have. That's the reality of it, in my humble opinion. So it's extremely horrifying at best. If this was just a blundering cluster of accidents and mismanagement and stupidity and miscommunication and lack of communication, it's a horrific mess. And it's probably more than that. And to what extent, I don't know. And honestly, the world will probably never know. We'll be able to find out some, but we're not going to get all of the information out in the public if there's a coordinated effort to take that land to turn it into a smart city. And it sure as heck looks like that's exactly what's going on here. Um, Annie says, okay, so our rebuild's going to have limited land and square footage. The new plan is we will not drive out of our little area. No need to travel, no oil needed. Be bad? Turn off electricity. We see it. Ooh, ooh. Right. I mean, the smart city in some ways sounds like a utopia, right? You can just like you're free to ride your bike and walk and you're not a slave to your car, but it also can certainly be a way to control people. And it's just not natural. I mean, it's like Dubai. Dubai is all a planned city. Orange County in Southern California is all planned cities. And there's a lot of city planning in every single town and city and village in the world. But to have it basically a blank slate and then restarted is pretty crazy. I mean, it's artificial. If you can get the land, in the middle of a state that has a lot of open space. I won't name any because I don't want to upset anybody. I was going to say Montana, but I'm sure there's somebody from Montana who'd say, "Hey, get out of my state." But Nebraska, Montana, I mean, Washington State on the eastern side. There's places in Ohio. There's a lot of wide open space, right? You could take like North Dakota. You've got places that are just growing hay, thousands and thousands and thousands of acres. You could do a smart city there as a test pilot program. For instance, if you purchased the property and you had the permissions, but I'll just say it, the government and the elite wealthy think they own the freaking world, and that's not okay. We live in a free society. That's the whole point of America becoming its own country. Squirrels, I'm so glad you're here. I was gonna text you, but I didn't. I was just trying to get started on time because I scheduled it like an hour in advance and I was a little bit behind. Okay, but the elites, they and buy, fly and sail the world, right? It does not work only on TV documents. It works, Eureka. Um, It does not work only on TV. Does it work? Eureka. What pisses me off is they want these smart cities and for everyone to go green, but these elites and their jets make a carbon footprint on one flight as they do a person's car will in a lifetime. What a great point, Shan. Thank you. And thank you everybody for being here. We have a lot of new people and that's always fun. Um, I want to open up this conversation. Brush Junkie did a new video yesterday, and she's so smart, in my opinion. She's very humble. She knows what she's talking about. She does her research, and I have a great deal of respect for her, and I really appreciate the information that she puts out. I will put a link to her last video in the description as well. Um, Tom Hanks' son is mad and sharing what his dad had to do with Maui. Oprah is thrilled, rebuild the way she wants it. Um, yeah, I saw some about Tom Hanks' son. I didn't see a whole bunch. In short, one flight equals one car's carbon footprint in a lifetime. One. That is wild, Shanda. Thank you for that information. That is really wild. So let me see what I got in my notes here so I can get my brain on track. I wanted to address the things that we are not hearing about. So the things that we are hearing about, that's interesting, but it's the things that we're not hearing about that I think are really interesting. Like why did those school buses get moved? What was going on there? Why don't they just say, "Well, we moved the school buses so that they wouldn't burn"? Well, if you moved the school buses so that they didn't burn, why didn't you move the people so that they didn't burn? That to me is evidence that they possibly planned on burning the place down. Possibly. I'm not saying definitively because I don't know. I would love to go there and investigate and ask questions, but I'm sure I would not be appreciated at all. So I won't. Plus, I'm not gonna travel anywhere and give people a heads up that that's where I'm traveling to. That's just not a smart thing for anybody to do, whether you're on YouTube or not. If you're just, like, on Facebook or Instagram, that's one of the stupidest things that a lot of people have done with social media is announced publicly when they're traveling, and then their house gets robbed. Like, duh. I mean, unless you're setting it up so that you can then catch the burglars because you've got surveillance systems and stuff. That's just not wise. So, so why are the school buses in a hidden, undisclosed location? Like, WTF, you guys? That makes no sense. That makes 0 sense. And why would the person who made that video be in danger? For making that video, for saying, "I found the buses, they're in an undisclosed location." Why? There's only one reason, in my opinion. So, um, this is not the first time there's been a terrible tragedy done for corporate entities to secure the resources that they've been fighting over. This is not the first time it's been done in Hawaii. It's not the first time it's been done worldwide. Of course, these corporate entities can swoop in and be opportunists and take advantage of the tragedy, but there have been situations parallel to the possibility that this was a planned event. There have certainly been multiple examples of that globally. Um, like what a coincidence the day after the deadline for the applications for the water rights everything burns down. And the day after that, the governor says, "Oh, that proclamation is going to suspend the new water code." And here it is. So let's see what you girls are saying. Elite's footprint in their lifetime is likely equal to all of America. Take your pick of who. Bezos, Zuck, Oprah, Gates, they're all terrible for Earth. Oh my goodness, squirrels. You remind me of a Tracy Ullman skit. If you guys remember Tracy Ullman, she was hilarious. And she's got, a big rig when Suburbans became the thing. And I admit I had a Suburban, I had a Durango. I admit I'm one of these. But she called it the Earth Destroyer. And I just like that was the car name. Like instead of a Suburban, it was just called the Earth Destroyer and, like, yeah, it's funny, but there's truth to anything that's funny. Otherwise, it wouldn't be funny. So these are Earth destroyers. And these folks that you mentioned, Shan, they probably all have a ton of acreage in Hawaii. They all have a ton of acreage in multiple places all over the world. And she says, "Oh my God, I love Tracy Ullman." Well, you're also a Kids in the Hall fan, which most people have never heard of Kids in the Hall. I'm a huge Kids in the Hall fan. Anybody who doesn't know the Kids in the Hall, you must, you must, you must, you must. So they're an old Canadian comedy troupe, just 5 of them, hilarious. All of them have gotten famous on other shows since, but then they reconvened a few years ago too. Um, and they're produced by Lorne Michaels, the same guy who does SNL. Let's see, club burns with 100 people gone, and entire towns burned with about the same number of losses. Good point. Very, very good point. So the thing I wanted to say about all the other tragedies, and I spent a few nights just like looking up all American mass casualty events, all mass casualty fire events in the last 100 years, in ever. This is the largest mass casualty fire event in about 100 years. There's been a lot of fires in those 100 years, you guys. There's a lot of technology and a lot of professionalism to handle each and every one of those fires. I have firefighters in my family, so I know some about fighting fire. Um, it's a tricky business, it's a dangerous business. Yes, firefighters die at work. They are trained to run in directly into the danger. They are trained to go against their instinct, but their instinct is also to save people because they know that they're trained to get people out of there. People that might burn alive, they know that they're trained on how to save them and that these people are not trained and that they're going to be victims. So it's amazing to me that there are people who have that like in their DNA cellular structure to go against their own instinct of self-preservation for the greater good. That's what heroes do. And there are a lot of heroes. There's a lot of heroes in the military, there's a lot of heroes in first responders, there's a lot of heroes, teachers, and everyday people that work in the grocery store, drive buses, or farm. There's a lot of good people in the world. Um, One bad person is all it takes to ruin your life. And when you get a person with bad intentions in a position of power, you're screwed. You're 100% screwed. It is on all of us in a democracy to keep those people out of positions of power. Why is that police chief still chiefing, still policing? Why is he not put on an administrative leave and under investigation for this worst catastrophic mass casualty fire event in American history in about 100 years? And yeah, I do hear what the locals say and what some people are saying on YouTube. Like, it's time to move on, but it's also time to get answers. So people need to move forward. People need to focus on the here and now. They need to be grateful for what they have and grateful that they're still alive and move forward. But you cannot leave people who are installed into positions like that, who were in charge when this happened. Let's just say he's a fool and he doesn't know his elbow from that other part of his body, okay? He doesn't know shinola from that other black stuff. Let's just say he's stupid, okay? That right there is enough to get him out of office. Why did they hire him when they had never had a police chief who wasn't a local or from Hawaii? Why would they select that guy who doesn't even have any experience as being a police chief anywhere? Yeah, I know he has FBI training. Yeah, I know he was a captain in Vegas, but that's crazy. If you're going to get someone from the outside, you get somebody with police chief experience. If you're going to take somebody from a lower rank and give them that promotion, you take somebody from internal that knows the squad, that the squad knows, that the squad trusts. Everybody that I've heard addressing the the issue with this from an internal government perspective, like the people that work in the police department, is that the morale of that police department dropped significantly the minute he was hired, and it's been plummeting ever since. And they are short at least 100 police officers just on Maui alone from the research that I've done. That's what I've found. So again, I'm going to reiterate what so many people say on YouTube is do your own research and come to your own conclusion. Please don't take my word for it. I could be incorrect. I could be looking at the wrong information. Maybe I just haven't seen how wonderful he is. But, for somebody to come into a job and get 7 formal complaints about them in the first 7 months, normally that this is from Brush Junkie. That would normally there would be an inquiry, and that person might get demoted, they might get put on a performance improvement plan. Nothing happened with him except that he got a 30% pay raise, you guys. Like, that is suspicious in and of itself. Right there. The guy's getting complaints and people are quitting, dropping like flies, people who've been there for a long time. His personal assistant dropped like a fly, deceased within 2 months of him starting. That's suspicious. Like, sure, maybe she was chasing the robber in her car at 4:30 in the morning and was, what, going like 100 miles an hour in a parking lot and hit the tree, okay? Maybe, maybe not. Like, it's very suspicious. She worked for the government. She worked for that police department for over 30 years. He starts, she dies. And there's 7 complaints against him, and he's asking for a 30% raise. What are the chances she found out something about him that he didn't want her to know? Okay. Maybe it's a good time to segue into Kylie Rodney squirrels. What do you say, Annie Ruler and Kimberly Walker? And let me get caught up. Sounds legit. He was brought there to execute this. In my opinion, Annie, I think that that could be accurate. He's likely being paid very well to do his job, and his job isn't, yes, and it's scrolling too quickly. Thank you for your wonderful comments. Just like Tolson and Payne on Idaho 4, bad people know they're like kind. Yeah, and we'll talk about Idaho 4 today also because it needs to be talked about. I said yesterday I'm sick of that case, and of course I'm sick of that case. Who isn't? But then there's going to be a special on like Dateline or 48 Hours or something coming out over the weekend. They just released their little trailer. Just like nice people like to be around nice people. Mark Molina, yes. What was the alleged population? Do Hawaiians do like Mexicans? Some are not registered births, probably. We lose them in storms and never know. That is such a great, great point. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of undocumented native folks. I would imagine for sure. Hey, give them Coffee City's old officers, LOL. I'm not really sure what that means, Coffee Cities, like, that would be my kind of place. Good morning and hello. I'll be here and listening, but gotta get some housework done while I do. Shame on you for doing housework. No, I'm just kidding. You gotta do your housework, right? Let me drink a little coffee and then shall we switch gears to Idaho first or switch gears to Ms. Kylie first? What do you guys want to do? I'll wait. I'll take another drink. I I would say switching over to Idaho 4 maybe since we were kind of slightly going there and the names were dropped of some of those officers. Um, I believe that, again, the people in leadership need to be looked at. Oh, Mama T says, Kylie. Well, I have a rule, which is if I ask someone's advice, I have to take it. I just have that rule. I think that it makes sense. Like, why ask for someone's advice and then not take it? Idaho first so I can run to potty. Oh, too funny. So now I got both 50-50. Mama T, I'm going to continue with Idaho since I was kind of going right there. So I hope that's not disrespectful in your opinion. But we will get to our girl Kylie because we really care about justice for Kylie. And sorry, I couldn't talk. Justice for Kylie and for all of the others. So with Idaho 4, you guys, looking at the leadership, looking at the lead detective taking 4 hours to arrive. it's my opinion that investigating the department for that is the right choice, not just investigating him, because he took 4 hours. There were already officers there, and the department knew the scale of what was going on, and the department should have been communicating amongst themselves to say, 4 hours is too long. We're gonna have to at least put somebody else as the lead detective until he gets there. Does that make sense? And if I heard information that was accurate, Chief Fry just happened to be out of town when this happened, right? He was allegedly out of town, and that picture from the back of the corner club, what, a couple hours before it happened, that's not him. The one that looks just like him, the one that's standing just like him with his hands in his pockets just like him, same height as him, same build as him, same jacket as him, same uh, facelessness as him, same hair, same hat, same sunglasses. That's not him. But maybe he left town later in the wee hours of the morning, like Jack S. left town in the wee hours of the morning. I think, more like when the sun came up. But anyway, the leadership in that department needs to be investigated, just like the leadership in Nevada County Sheriff's Department and Placer County Sheriff's Department needs to be investigated. The people in the leadership positions, if they are crooked, the entire department is going to be crooked. There's no way a police officer can go against that grain and maintain their position, in my opinion. There's absolutely no way. So, if something happens that's questionable, there's normally an investigation into what happened and what was done and what wasn't done. What was the response? What was the lack of response? So, why it took 4 hours for somebody in charge to get there, which then set the coroner back to not getting in there for 5.5 hours from the time the first call was made. So she should have been allowed in there within the first hour, in my opinion. The situation should have been secured immediately by the first responders that were able to get there, whoever that is. When there's an emergency, everyone shows up, whoever is available. When it's a large scale emergency, it doesn't matter if it's out of your jurisdiction. If you can show up, you do. That's how first responders roll, in my experience. So, um, you know, the situation with Kathy Mabbitt, and I'll try not to make fun of her last name because that's just immature. but but she's so questionable at best in her reporting of what she saw and what she experienced. Um, the early reports of what she saw and experienced, I trusted because, you know, she seemed like a reasonable, mature woman doing her job. But then her statements that she made early on have not held up over time. A lot of what she said has been directly contradicted. She said everybody was asleep, everybody was stabbed to death in their own bed, right? And that seems plausible. Like, it seems like somebody would have woken up, but then we come to find out that at least half of the victims are awake, and that at least half of the victims are not in their own bed when they're discovered. So, why the misinformation? Why the inconsistency with the term, the red liquid bath, and that there, was one latent footprint that they found the second time coming through? These are inconsistencies that don't add up. Um, Students are told, "Call them." School calls chief. Chief says, "The guy we need is paying Annie." You rule. Um, is him to me, LOL. His sunglasses on hat. Another creator said, "Sunglasses on hat like owner must be owner." Oh, that's hilarious. Well, the sunglasses are up on the rim of the ball cap, but there's a photograph that I've seen of Payne with those same sunglasses. I think they're like an Oakley style. They're kind of rounded, kind of like a Terminator style. Um, that he has up on his head without a hat, but like at the same angle and everything. So, when you look at his posture, his thumbs are the exact same thumbs in the exact same pockets at the exact same angles of a known photograph of him. And I do have those photographs side by side way back in my community posts. I know I have kind of too many community posts. It's probably hard to find them. Maybe I'll try to put that one post it again so it's towards the top because it's to me so blatantly obvious. And no, it's not Mark Trivet. If he's still the owner, he's much younger. He's more muscular and athletically built, and taller. So it ain't him, in my opinion. The trial was on. Coroner explained they do not do their part their until all photos and measurement. Um, right, because yeah, because they can touch things and move things. So yeah, they're not going to. Oh Lord, she never saw those bodies. Rewatch her interview. Uh-huh. Yeah. So why did she act like she did? Mabbott also said, the red stuff everywhere, so no doubt much red stuff. Government says opposite of what they do, in my opinion. Pain in my butt. Oh, you're cute, Pixie. Coburger and fries. Oh, you are great. You're funny. Listen, I'm about sick of these dad jokes, fake names. Who? Um, about sick of rather fake names. Okay, I'm not sure what you're referring to, Kimberly, if you wanna elaborate, please. Fry had to pick up his protection money and drive it to Payne's meat locker, LOL. Yeah, funny. Funny, not funny, right? So yeah, Kimberly, I'm not sure if you're, addressing me. Um, so yeah. Um, anyway, thanks for being here, you guys. Shall we segue over to Kylie Rodney? Where are we at? We're just over an hour. So, yeah, let's talk about our girl. Shan, you said you're listening even though you're cleaning house. Always good to clean house, metaphorically as well as literally. Um, so, with our girl, Kylie Rodney, it just is magnificent, in my opinion, that a lot of these content creators are rehashing the same material again and again. I can't speak highly enough of two of my favorite newer creators, Ninja Chihuahua and Divine Justice, aka Mrs. G. Those two are just on the Kylie Rodney case like pit bulls, and they just keep addressing some of these issues that we've addressed many times, but they're doing it with fresh perspectives, in my opinion. And, it's kind of as plain as the nose on our faces that the people that look suspicious are suspicious and they're being protected and it's being ignored. So, I think that that's similar to what's going on in the Idaho 4 with the surviving witnesses that aren't witnesses. the ones that were there that didn't see anything because they had their doors shut and their eyes closed. Um, like Pickles, Justice for Kylie. Oh, you and your jokes that I don't understand. What's like Pickles J. Rana? I'm totally lost. Um, so yeah, with our Ms. Kylie Rodney, what a sad situation. This little girl, she moves into that beautiful lodge that her granddaddy built when she was 7 years old, and she's homeschooled for the next 9 years. It makes sense that somebody would homeschool their child living so high up on a mountain that in the dead of winter that there's weeks where you can't even get to town. Um, you can't possibly spend the time commuting your child just to school every day, even on the good days when it's nice weather. That's a long trip. And the homeschooling I know can be a blessing for a lot of people. There can be a very big problem with social skills. There can be a very big problem with um, friends and interaction and just a support network. And a lot of people that homeschool their kids don't have those challenges because they have built in um, resolutions or preventions. They get together with other homeschool groups. They do field trips. They make those connections. But it seems to me that our little Ms. Kylie was much on her own. Her little baby brother was born, I think, when she was 8. Is that right? Because he was 8 when she passed. Um, so at 8 years old, she became a big sister, and, I'm the mother of 4. My oldest was 10 when the youngest was born, and she did a lot to help me out taking care of the baby. But just the way kids are, when she had her first little sibling when she was 3, or 2. How old are my kids? I think she was just over 2. She was 27 months when her little brother was born, and the minute she met him, like, literally the second she met him, she was protective over him. It was so cute, like, that's just the way kids are, and they wanna help. They wanna help feed and bathe and play with. They even wanna help change diapers. I mean, they're just adorable like that. So, I would think it being the first time she was a big sister and her being 8 years old, that she was probably thrilled and that it was necessary, especially as she got older and could take on more responsibility, that she did a lot to take care of her little brother so that her parents could both do all of the work that they needed to do with the lodge. I mean, running a lodge like that is a ton of work. It's a ton of work just to run a house like that without having guests and paying guests and visitors. I would imagine that those 2 were working 24/7. So, I would imagine that Kylie did a ton of the work too. She probably did a lot of cooking, a lot of cleaning, a lot of, fixing things, a lot of babysitting on top of her studies, on top of her musical pursuits. I mean, the good thing about that type of isolation is you have a lot of time to build all these great skills, right? She wasn't, quote unquote, wasting time hanging out with friends. But we all know as kids get older, teenagers, I mean, kids of any age need friends, but especially teenagers. Like, there's nothing more important than your friends when you're a teenager. Um, During COVID, many schools required kids to stay home with a computer. Yes, all 4 of mine did. My oldest was a senior, and the other 2 boys, they were in middle school and high school, and then the youngest girl, was let's see, she was probably in, like, 2nd grade or 3rd grade. Anyway, all 4 of them were home with their computers, staying on top of their studies, and some of them did really well and got straight A's, and I had one of my kids, I won't name which one, but he was a straight A student, and he, absolutely did not do well with the being responsible for himself at home with the computer. It just didn't work for him. I mean, he's a genius, and that didn't work for him. So that was a huge problem. But yeah, there was a lot of isolation during COVID too. So yeah, I mean, everybody was basically required to homeschool for at least a few months, nationwide, as far as I know. Speaking from my own experience. But, I thought that was gonna be really hard on me as a parent. I was working full time at that time, so I was put on unemployment for the first time, only time in my life that I've, collected unemployment, and I was able to be there with the kids, and I've mentioned this before, that was when I started, building a patio around or in the front yard, and then one in the backyard, and then one in the side yard. And then by the end of COVID, we have a patio going all the way around our home, 360 degrees, which so it's wheelchair accessible. But it was perfect for me because I was able to be there for my children and not get cabin fever, all of us being locked in the house. I'd done a lot of gardening, but I won't go all into it. Anyway, it was a trying time for everyone, and everyone comes out of the COVID, and there's all kinds of catastrophes like Astro World, right? Um, Places like California were in a much tighter uh, COVID aftermath for a longer period of time, I believe, than places like Ohio. The West Coast was really tight with long-term rules and regulations, and it sounded to me like that Prosser party or Kylie Rodney party or whatever the heck you want to call August 6th of last year, 2022, out there in Truckee. It sounded to me like that was maybe one of the first big get-togethers these kids had had in a few years. So, when they're talking about, "Oh, this is what we do every year," it's like, "Really? Did you do that in 2020 and 2021?" Because my guess is that in 2020, you were still on lockdown, and in 2021, you might have still been on a kind of moderated lockdown. Um, so I don't know. I think it's important to take that into consideration too with people who were going to public schools who had a lot of social activity, a lot of social interaction. They weren't isolated at all. And then they're isolated and they're not getting all that attention and they're not the queen bee since they're kind of homeschooling. How's that going to affect your little Miss Popular Heather type? I'm referring to that movie Heathers for those of you that remember it, and anyone who doesn't, find it and watch it. It's Winona Ryder and Christian Slater, and it's a very good movie. Hello, Justice Warriors and Miss Jazz, Mrs. Amir Zaza. Mrs. Amir. Hello. Alex Odine, I'm sorry, I missed your comment and I can't really rewind them here without knocking my phone over. I'm going to get my laptop hopefully in the next couple of days so that I can do my videos on my laptop again instead of this little makeshift contraption. California, the equity and inclusion had to be teachers know that some parents would not be helping kids, so did not want others excelling, lowered bar score for attorneys. I say, let's pay tutors. Wow, Annie, that is wild. Did they really lower the bar score for attorneys? That's crazy. Or it just that their scores were lower. I thought you meant they lowered the score for passing the bar. No, I was misinterpreting what you said. Sorry about that. Mrs. Amir says, "Did they catch him?" I'm sorry I missed what that is, and like I said, I can't rewind, I'll knock my phone down. J. Rana Boomer, so Kylie wasn't the only one. How did it work for those other kids? Is better question. This allowed a lot of kids freedom while parents were away, while they were working for adults, no supervision. Such a good point, Jayrana, which is why I was so happy that I was on the unemployment plan for those months for the end of that school year, so that my kids were supervised, they weren't home alone, but yeah, there were a lot of people, like, small business owners and the essential workers that did not have the forced unemployment, right? Um, so hello, LC. So you guys, thanks again for being here. I'll do my cute little thumb again. I love these things, my little props. I don't love this one so much because I didn't do the best job on it, but I'll put it up here. The share, subscribe, ring your notification bell. Um, and please comment in the comment sections. All those things are great for the algorithm. I really feel like I'm kind of recalibrating where my channel is at and the direction that I'm going. Um, it's all about justice. It's all about truth. I'm all about justice. I'm all about truth. And it's just really important to me to pay attention to what's going on around me and to pay attention to what's going on internally. Um, they're having the press conference now. What, Dana? Which press conference? Please share. Um, they're having the press conference now. Interesting. Yes, one husband on Orange County Housewives failed bar 3 times. California lowered passing score for future attorneys. Oh my goodness. So I wasn't just reading into it. He passed, LOL. Very white Orange County guy. Wow. So yeah, I'm curious what press conference is going on now. I've got my computer right here. Should I turn it on and see? Um, I'm going to just for fun because I don't think I've ever done that when I'm on a live. Just turned on my computer. Let's see. Press conference. What happens if I Google press conference? And are you guys telling me what press conference is happening? Press conference. So, are you talking about at the White House? Or because of course that's what came up. Um, let's see. Videos of press conference right now. Yeah. Um, Biden holds first press conference. No, that's something old. Okay. So, I'll see what you guys said. Oh, they caught the guy that you're talking about, the press conference here. I'll close this so we don't have the screen. Let me close it out though. You're talking about the guy in Pennsylvania. Oh, I'm so glad they caught him. I'm sure Shan is so glad that they caught him. Holy yeah, that was scary because he stole that rifle in the last couple of days. So that's probably the press conference you're talking about. Modeling, setting up cameras for sexy stuff. Male influences could have encouraged press conference for catching escapee. Yes, he's been captured, and hopefully nobody was hurt in the process. I mean, if he was hurt in the process, I wouldn't really care. But nobody else, of course, innocent bystanders or the first responders that are trying to nab him. If I wanted to watch it, I'd be watching it instead of you. Aw, that's cute, Jayrana. They caught him at 8:30 this morning, and Harsh Shelley, hello. They got him. Oh, what a relief. What a great thing to hear that good news. You guys know I'm in Ohio and Pennsylvania's right next door, so that was a little concerning. And just concerned for everybody, for everyone's safety. So that's fascinating that they got him, and, I mean, it's amazing how long he was on the run for, that he was not being captured, right? I mean, that's tough to do, especially with technology and cameras everywhere and all that jazz. Um, Grizzly was on, but I would rather be with my jazz family. Aw, you're so sweet, Mrs. Amir. Thank you. So I was going to go ahead and wrap up on such a positive note. I want to encourage all of us to stay focused on Maui. I don't want that to get lost in the shuffle and forgotten about and it's over. And, this is an ongoing issue and it's going to be ongoing for many years for the rebuilding. Um, it's a really serious issue. It's something that really uh, pulls my heartstrings. And I shared with you guys yesterday how I finally put it together, why it was pulling so uh, particularly hard on mine, and just personally how that ties in with my own ancestry. And again, having been to a couple of the Hawaiian Islands, it immediately gave me so much uh, insight. I felt like as soon as this happened, because I'd been there and understood the dynamic of what had been going on for so many generations. Um, you know, it's just so obvious. And to me, the evidence that I see supports my suspicions that I had at the beginning. I am going to stay vigilant. I'm going to stay open minded. I'm going to stay positive, and I'm going to keep pressing for truth and answers. And I'm going to keep following other content creators that I feel like are doing the same. But I'm going to tell you straight up, nothing is more um, eye opening and true to me than personal accounts from folks. So it's fascinating. It's heart wrenching. It's absolutely heartbreaking to hear these personal stories from people that survived, and people are getting notified, loved ones that are getting confirmed to have been some of the fatalities. Those people are getting notifications now. But this number of 115 that has stayed at 115 for what, at least 3 weeks? That's so suspicious to me. That is so blatantly suspicious and obvious and unrealistic. So I hope that the truth comes out. I hope that there's a serious investigation into the catastrophic failures that happened in this Maui fire tragedy. And I will continue to pray for all of the victims of all of the unfortunate tragedies globally. I mean, Maui's not the only place with mass casualties right now. We know that. Um, so, such good news that that guy, that escaped convict, was caught. Such good news. Peace out, you guys. Thank you again for joining me. Maui numbers are not adding up, and I pray for all those people. Yeah, the math isn't mathing. I like that. I know that Squirrel Tribe says that. I don't know who else says that, but the math ain't mathing, you guys. It ain't mathing. And those freaking school buses. Why in the world are they hiding the school buses? Why did they move them in the first place? These are reasonable questions that need real answers, because if they're not going to come forward with that information, they're hiding stuff. All right. Peace out. Have a great rest of your day. I hope you can be productive and also relax, get your exercise, get your fresh air and sunshine, stay hydrated, stay well nourished, high protein, high consumption of produce, especially your veggies, so very important. And just really breathing is obviously the most important thing, and a lot of us take short breaths without realizing it. So, do some deep breathing exercises if you know some. If you don't know any, just take 10 deep breaths. Just real conscious 10 deep breaths in and out. It's amazing what that does for you. So sending you light and love. Thanks again, and I will see you on the next one. I'll try to schedule for tomorrow morning. Thanks again.